All right. Welcome everybody to the Statistics Without Borders 2024 annual meeting. My name is Matt Brems. I'm our chair here at SWB. I use he, him pronouns. I'm based in the United States, specifically in Baltimore, Maryland. And I can't tell you how excited I am to get to chat with all of you today. So what I want to be able to do is spend most of this time letting our volunteers speak for themselves and our clients speak for themselves. Let me go ahead and get started by sharing my screen here so that you're able to see my slides. You should be able to see my slides. It's a navy and gray slide that says Statistics Without Borders annual meeting. So welcome everybody. Again, I'm very, very excited for you all to be here today. So for those of you, I recognize a lot of names and I'm excited for all of you to be here. There are some names that I don't recognize though, and we may have some clients who are joining or people who are perhaps new to Statistics Without Borders. So what I want to do is take a quick moment to explain what is Statistics Without Borders, if you're not familiar with it. So first, we've got our clients, and our clients are organizations who are spread all around the world and for one reason or another may lack access to statistical and related expertise. So our clients might be large organizations that because of bureaucracy or because of competing interests aren't able to get access to statisticians or maybe a data science consultant or something like that. But these are organizations all around the world. They're going to be not-for-profits or non-governmental organizations or the like. So that's on one side. On the other side, we have our volunteers. And I imagine that many of you on this call are volunteers. So these are people who are distributed around the world, just like our clients are. And these are people who are dedicated to making our world a better place by volunteering their time, their energy, their expertise. And many of these folks are going to be statisticians by trade, or maybe they're data scientists. Others might be in adjacent fields like economics or psychology, epidemiology. And others still are just people who care and want to contribute and offer what they have to offer. So we've got our clients, we've got our volunteers, and everybody is distributed around the world. And what our clients do and what our volunteers do is ultimately they partner. When I say partner, they partner up to empower each to do more good than either could on its own. So our volunteers here at Statistics Without Borders, they empower organizations to advance their missions by providing that needed data science or statistical expertise and any related expertise that we can offer. On the other hand, our clients bring their own context, their own local knowledge, their own subject matter expertise, and more to the situation and problems that need to be solved. And what we do is our clients and our volunteers partner together so that we are able to, again, do more than either would be able to do independently. And primarily what we do is we partner by completing pro bono projects in statistics and data science together. This is not a one-stop shop where a client or an organization may send some data to us and walk away and we don't hear from them again or anything like that, but rather this is a deep partnership between our two organizations. And I really want to emphasize that partnership or that togetherness, because really what we are doing is that we are building a better world together. And it's really good that we're building this better world together. As many as you know, our world is at an inflection point, and there's a lot of things that we can consider here. One example is generative AI and how generative AI is changing how we work, and in some cases, how we live. Whether you're using ChatGPT, DALL-E, something else, generative AI is an important part of the conversation now and is making a lot of changes across every industry, everything like that. The practice of statistics has also grown increasingly politicized, whether it's the United States, whether it's Kazakhstan, whether it's Montenegro, Greece, Argentina. There's plenty of examples all around the world where the practice of statistics has grown increasingly politicized, and it's important for us to be aware of this. And finally, it feels like most days when you turn on the news or open up Threads or X or whatever your social media of choice is, if you use social media, you are exposed to some kind of humanitarian crisis. And it is important for us to keep this in mind, that in order for us to solve humanitarian crises, we need to be able to have reliable data, and that data needs to be interpreted in good faith by skilled individuals. And as you might imagine where I'm going with this, we at Statistics Without Borders, we often provide that skill in conjunction with, again, that local know-how and that subject matter expertise of our clients. So again, our world is at an inflection point. It's not just our world, though. Statistics Without Borders is also at an inflection point. Over the last 15 years, the, quote, big tent of statistics, to use a phrase that our friends at the American Statistical Association use frequently, that big tent of statistics has only continued to get bigger. And there's a number of ways that we can think about this. New programming languages. For example, where SWB was 15 years ago, we were using different programming languages than we are today, or that distribution of programming languages has significantly shifted. We're also using new techniques. For example, in a little bit, you're gonna learn about a computer vision application that we're working on here at Statistics Without Borders. In other cases, we're just applying old techniques to new problems that we didn't think of or didn't realize 15 years ago. We're also incorporating new fields. I mentioned generative AI earlier, which, depending on your interpretation, may or may not be a new field. But there's all sorts of things. If we look at the projects that we're doing at Statistics Without Borders, the scope of these projects has expanded significantly. For example, there's a lot more software development, data engineering, and other things that are coming in now into many of these projects. And while we don't proclaim to be a data engineering expert organization or having all of the skills and everything to independently run a full software development project end to end, we do incorporate many of these elements in our projects. And so one of the things that we think of at Statistics Without Borders is, as time goes on, how does that term statistics shift? And so that's part of what's fueling this inflection point. What I can say is 15 years in, we're just getting started, and we're ready for this. With that, what I want to get into is I want to connect these things together. With that, that's why this year's theme is meeting the moment, building a better world together. What we are doing is we recognize that our world is at an inflection point, and we at SWB are making strategic investments and putting forth efforts to meet that moment. And we're not just building a better world on our own, but rather we're building a better world together in conjunction with our clients and other partners around the world. And every single one of you who is joining this call is playing some role in that, whether you're a volunteer at Statistics Without Borders, whether you're a member of one of our client organizations, whether you're somebody interested in partnering, whether you're one of our friends at the American Statistical Association and you generously give us financial support. No matter what your role is, you are helping us to build this better world. And I want to take a moment to just say thank you for doing that. Now, given that I've talked about meeting the moment and building this better world together, what I'd like to be able to do is shift into talking about some of the specific things that we've done over the last year. So I'm going to use calendar year 2023 to describe this. In 2023, at Statistics Without Borders, we worked on 51 distinct projects. These 51 projects that we worked on were for 42 distinct clients or organizations that we partnered with, like not-for-profit and non-governmental organizations. These projects were distributed around the globe, and these projects primarily focused in 19 countries. So again, in 2023, we were able to, with our volunteer force, work on 51 projects for 42 clients in 19 countries, which is really significant. Gary Shapiro, and I'm not sure if Gary Shapiro, one of our co-founders, is on the call today, but one of the things that he talked about when he co-founded SWB at the joint statistical meetings 15 years ago, actually 16 years ago at this point, is that this has grown significantly in scope beyond anything that he would have expected. He thought there might be a handful, a couple dozen volunteers who might do a couple of projects. And so, powered by you and with your support, your time, your energy, your expertise, you have been able to help us have this significant impact across 19 countries for 42 organizations who are all working to make the world a better place. So with this, these 51 projects for 42 clients in 19 countries, this was powered by 209 project volunteers. I want to reiterate, these are volunteers. So all of this effort that has been done is thanks to a little over 200 people around the world who are just interested in giving their time, their energy, and their expertise. And for those of you on the call who participated on one of these projects, I want to say thank you again. In addition, this isn't even counting all of the other volunteers at Statistics Without Borders who are contributing in other ways. Members of our operations team who make sure that the trains are continuing to run on time. The kind of back of house folks on our engagement team who provide a lot of the leadership to ensure that we can recruit and retain volunteers on these different projects. Our marketing and communications team who work to make sure that we can get this out there. I want to provide one quick special thank you to Neha Margosa. They are our content lead here at Statistics Without Borders, and they provided a ton of invaluable support in helping to put this presentation together. And you'll see there a lot of their editing in the coming videos that we have with our clients and with our volunteers. With that, now I want to shift into talking about some of the individual projects that we worked on during calendar year 2023. It's not going to be possible, as much as I would love to talk about, our 50-some different projects or go into 19 different countries, but we just don't have the time for that. But what we can do over the course of our hour together is talk through 5 different organizations and the work that we did at SWB in conjunction with these partners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these folks speak for themselves. So first, we're going to start in Detroit, Michigan, here in the United States. There's an organization called Urban Development Corporation, or UDC, and this is a not-for-profit based in Detroit, Michigan, and they strive to improve the quality of life and bring about positive lifestyle changes in the experience of low to moderate income families who live in Detroit, Michigan. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kelly Grace, a project and client manager here at Statistics Without Borders, and Vanessa Peak, the executive director of UDC, or Urban Development Corporation, to tell you more about this interaction. At this point, as I imagine most of you know, we're running this meeting twice. So I am a live human being on right now, but to ensure that we didn't need volunteers to join at inhospitable times to them, we have pre-recorded these presentations. So what I'll do is I'm going to head to the next slide. When I shared my screen, I did mark to share audio and everything, so hopefully you'll be able to hear this well. I'm going to turn my volume up, and what I'd like is if there's any issue, feel free to put a note in the chat so that I can try and course correct. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly.
I'm Kelly Grace, and I am a PCM with SWB. And so I really just kind of wanted to talk to you about your experience with SWB and the impacts that it's had on your organization.
My name is Vanessa Peak, and I am the Executive Director of Urban Development Corporation. We're a grassroots nonprofit organization doing work in the inner city neighborhoods of Detroit.
Great. So tell me a little bit about kind of your experience with this first project with the census data, and tell me about that experience with SWB.
When I say to you, a very rewarding experience, believe it or not, we received an email, and in the beginning we actually thought it was a prank. We just couldn't believe it. We at that time when we received this email about a year ago, almost a little over a year, we were looking to build our capacity, and we were really in need of help. And so we get this email inviting us to telling a little bit about SWB and what they were able to do for us. And we were, believe it or not, quite shocked, because we at that time, we gave thought to the fact, here we are, we're a smaller organization and the need to grow. The demands of the community calls for the fact that we need to grow. We need some help. And one of the things that we find in looking to grow our organization, one of the first things they asked you, everyone asked you, tell us about your community. But they're looking for more than just the lived experience that you have in terms of engaging with the community. They're looking for the data that backs up the story that you tell. And so SWB has been very rewarding in helping us back up the story with the data. One of the things that the census data told us, it told us about our population. It told us when if you were to ask us, well, what is your population? What is the mixture in terms of African American versus others? That data was very instrumental. It told us about the education. It told us how people were living. The house, what was the household structure in terms of how many people were living in a household. It really shedded light when we talk about the fact, we can now comfortably talk about the fact we would sell, we serve a poverty-stricken community. Well, we knew that, but the data validified that, yeah, you are serving an impoverished community. And so that was very rewarding because it believe it or not, it gives us more credibility. Our team believes that we're thankful to SWB because you gave us confidence. You equipped us with the tools to now start. We're actually, if you only knew the grants that we're applying for, and it's okay now. I mean, because we have the data, we understand what the funders are at the much higher levels are really asking us for, and so you've made our job a lot easier, to tell you the truth. Thank you. That experience was very rewarding because to be with a team of people who, if there's one thing that we took away, is that when you want to come closer to a community, you have to package it in such a way that's receptive. You've got to be very careful. And it's a lot more thought than just saying, okay, well, I want to go and ask a group of people some questions. There's a lot more thought that goes into it that we didn't know. And now we're at that level. Now we're actually, believe it or not, putting the surveys, the employment survey, the environmental survey, the social survey, we're actually packaging that for a grant. One of the things that we saw that we really wanted to do, we wanted to package those surveys in such a way that we had the full attention of the community. That meant that instead of giving that survey out where we're going to someone else's event and we're competing for attention on different things, we're going to actually package all three of those surveys in such a way that the focus is exclusively on the surveys, and we're not competing with a whole other group of individuals. I can't really necessarily explain it the way I want to explain it, but that's important. That's important to know that when they're coming in the room and really understanding, it opened up our eyes as to a lot of what the community did not know. So thankful, really.
All right.
I'm Kelly.
Oh.
I'm Kelly Grayson.
I'll just manually move on. So thinking about the Urban Development Corporation, one thing that keeps coming up there is community and the idea of just community being culturally responsive, making sure that we are interacting with communities. And that's such a vital part that our volunteers, or excuse me, our clients play, is understanding what are the communities that we all want to be able to have a positive impact on. And so our clients provide that crucial piece to help us to better understand what are perhaps the best ways to support a given community in ways that we at SWB may not know as much about. And that's a big part of why it's so critical for us at SWB to continue advancing diversity in all sorts of ways, including geographically. With that, what I want to do is let's move into our next project here. So we were just in Detroit, Michigan in the United States. And now I'd like to move over to India, at least as represented on this map, the other side of the world. There's an organization called Samayu, and Samayu is a nonprofit that's working for net positive outcomes for people, planet, and animals. And they are working together to create a just, fair world for all. Now, this interview was conducted by Neha Margosa. I mentioned their name earlier as our content lead here at SWB. You won't actually see them on this video. They, in doing the editing, have actually edited themselves out. But you are going to hear a lot from Varda, Debajyoti, and Shivam, who are individuals at Samayu. And so with that, I'd love to turn it over to the group from Samayu to talk a little bit about how we worked together, how we've been able to collaborate, and what SWB has been able to help Samayu accomplish.
So I'm Varda Mehrotra, and I've been working in the civil society for the last nearly 20 years now.
I'm Shivam. I basically involved in research in Samayu.
I'm Debajyoti Chatterjee. I'm looking after the research and policy vertical in Samayu.
Samayu is a fairly recent organization. So we were founded about 3 years ago. We'll complete 3 years in October. And it was really to bring a more intersectional lens to advocacy in general. So it wasn't just sort of like, how do we make animal advocacy more intersectional? But as advocates, sort of when we're out there engaging with different stakeholders and the issues, you sort of like, the interconnectedness is evident, and when the interconnectedness is evident, the next logical step was where we've got to make sure that our response is also more holistic, our response in terms of social change and the different things that we're doing. So that's really where Samayu came from. The complex nature of both the problem that we are addressing and the solutions that we're proposing makes monitoring and evaluation quite a complicated task. So even though all of us come with a lot of experience in how to set up monitoring evaluation systems and how to be able to do that for different projects. For something like the kind of work that we're doing, we needed that extra support and guidance, we from a more, from experts in that area that we didn't have in-house, and we could not afford in-house either. So that was something that was quite significant. And it's really important, of course, monitoring and evaluation is critical for any organization, but most importantly for us to be able to assess what impact does our theory of change really have, where do we need to make modifications, to evolve our strategies. So that was quite an important, and also to be able to communicate to funders. It was really important for us to be able to do that effectively. So that was quite significant. Also, we are, as an organization, do a fair bit of research. We undertake a lot of research, and we're a small team, so we have a very ambitious goal, but we have a very small team, an excellent, amazing team, but still a small team. To be able to get that extra support in being able to strengthen the robustness of the research that we undertake, that was another gap that we wanted to fill with our association with Statistics Without Borders. And that was really, those were the two big motivations for us to reach out to SWB to ask for help. And like I think everybody's been saying, it's been truly incredible.
We have divided the entire program in under two projects. The first one dealt with statistical methodology and sampling procedure, and second one mainly helped us in this monitoring and evaluation process. We worked with two incredible teams, led by Mr. Anthony and Dr. Holmes. So they helped us a lot in this entire process. They have given us the correct guidance to frame the monitoring procedure. And finally, that advanced statistical techniques that they have shared with us, it's also incredible, which really helped us right from the very beginning to keep our keep our entire program very focused and statistically valid.
In fields, we were collecting data, but those data were very massive. Like, we were collecting data from many locations or many places. Before the SWB, we were not having a understanding of data, that which way we will go about the sampling and also things. Whenever we were having problem, we were writing to them, especially Holmes and Anthony. So they were very kind and very supportive. Whenever we need, they had a meeting with us, and Did it clear all our doubts?
It's been a very exciting journey in the last several years because intersectionality and working across different sectors is something that we've all always aspired to, and to be able to see that in action and to be able to see tangible change and to be able to work on actual models that can make a difference has been hugely inspiring. And it's all down to the incredible team that we have and the support that we get from organizations like SWB. So we are hugely grateful for that.
So I'm going to pull up see the chat. I'm going to pull up the Q&A really quickly just to make sure. I think it's hiding some. Well, if you were putting something in the Q&A, I don't know if it's in a different window, but I'm unable to see that. So if you do have a question, please feel free to just put it in the webinar chat and feel free to direct it to me you can send it to hosts and panelists. I'm happy to put that out there. I cannot speak to the statistical methodology of everything. I am by no means an expert in this, and our volunteers know a lot more than I do, but yeah, happy to answer what questions I can. So with that, this is, so two things with Samayu as an organization. One, you heard about funding. That's something that organizations often will reach out to us for support with. They often want to be able to secure grants, and you heard about that with Samayu, you heard about that with UDC. That's fairly common, getting us to be able to help support them in what it is they need there, being able to provide them with the methodological rigor, for example, to be able to analyze their data or to be able to provide them with much needed partnership to help make things happen, especially if, like Samayu, you're working with a very smart team, people who, if they had an infinite amount of time, probably could do a lot of the statistics and data science on their own. But like many of the clients we work with, Samayu is much smaller. And so we're going to see that's a common type of partnership with us where when individuals or organizations may lack access to statistical and related expertise, it may simply be time. There's not enough time to do all of the things that they want. With that, we'll roll right into our third project here. And you'll see that a number of spots have popped up here. The organization that we're going to talk about in a moment, IC, has projects active in Chile, Brazil, in Nigeria, in Spain, and in Germany, perhaps among or in addition to other places. IC is a nonprofit that maps pollution to protect the ocean. I mentioned the projects that they have, or some of those projects around the world. And in this next video, you're going to hear from Ali Pai, who is the project and client manager at Statistics Without Borders, who has been partnering with IC on this project. So I'll let Ali speak about this, and I'll tip Ali's hand a little bit. This is a project that I previously alluded to when talking about computer vision, when I was describing new techniques that we're applying to tackle some problems that are coming up. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give Ali the floor.
Hello everyone, my name is Ali Pai and I am a project client manager at Statistics Without Borders, and today I'm going to talk to you about the project we are doing with IC. It is estimated that 1.7 million tonnes of plastic enters our oceans each year. This is a global problem that is not easily solved, and instead we need to understand specifically where the pollution is and what type of pollution is finding its way into our oceans. This is where IC come in. They are a not-for-profit organisation that wants to map global marine pollution. This data can then be used to develop effective strategies to clean our oceans and waterways. Currently, when users interact with the IC app, they have to manually tag what type of pollution they are photographing. This can be a source of friction for the user, as it is an extra step in the process of uploading their image. And it can also be a source of error if they accidentally choose the wrong tag. Instead, Statistics Without Borders is developing a computer vision model that will automatically detect what type of pollution is captured in the image. The aim of this is to improve the user experience by removing the need for them to tag the image, and to also improve the accuracy of the data. Statistics Without Borders has a team of 10 volunteers working on developing a solution using two different approaches in parallel. The first is to use pre-built models that are openly available. An example of this is PalyGemma, which is an open vision language model developed by Google. We are currently testing a number of these types of models to see if they are a feasible solution. The second approach is to build and train a custom model or utilize an open source framework such as YOLO that has been designed specifically for object detection. We are currently testing and evaluating the feasibility of both approaches. We are using traditional metrics such as accuracy to test the models, while also looking at how easy it is to integrate the models into a working pipeline and the computing resources needed to run them. After evaluating all of these metrics, we will deliver the best model to IC based on their specific needs. This project is still ongoing with the aim of reducing friction to improve user experience in the IC app. This in turn will help drive growth for IC. And although the project is still ongoing, there have already been some positive outcomes in terms of understanding the data infrastructure and capability within IC. This is a really exciting collaboration as there is potential for future projects to help IC build its pollution management platform. You can see in the video to the right the great work that has already been done by IC in mapping out pollution across the globe. So in the words of the founder of IC, Graham Somerville Ryan, take a simple photo and make a world of difference.
So this is a project that is currently ongoing, and I'm excited to see the final results between Statistics Without Borders and IC, and I imagine this will be an ongoing collaboration for some time. One of my favorite things about this project, in addition to computer vision maybe being a bit more exciting of an application, is what this says about Statistics Without Borders and our volunteers and how we're partnering with organizations. For example, with IC, it's not just about, it's not like we're coming in to just build a model that gets 99% accuracy or 99.999% accuracy or whatever it is, that it's a lot more nuanced, that we need to look at existing and perhaps new innovative solutions. We need to understand what are the right, what do we need in terms of accuracy? What might we need in terms of latency, or how quickly we're able to conduct inference when it comes to taking pictures? How do we match with, or how do we align with existing hardware or infrastructure requirements that IC has? And so really this, I think, is a good example of a bespoke partnership. Even though the application itself is quite cool in computer vision, it goes far beyond that. We'll slide right into our next project.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, Ollie. Slide right into our next project here. And this project is for an organization called Impact Initiatives that is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. But a lot of the work that we did, or some of the most recent work that we did with them, was about refugees and other crisis-affected individuals in Afghanistan. And so with that, Impact Initiatives is a Geneva-based NGO, and it's the largest independent data provider in contexts of crisis. And so you heard me talk earlier about the world being at an inflection point and being able to resolve, in order to resolve or solve humanitarian crises, organizations need access to reliable data, and for groups to interpret that data faithfully or in good faith. And so you're going to hear more about that with Impact Initiatives here, an aid coordination network. You'll hear from Nayana Das, Director of Research at Impact Initiatives. And the interview was conducted by SWB content individual Zared Shalver. Zared, I don't think says much in this video, but still wanted to ensure that Zared got the credit for the work that he did here. With that, I'm going to go ahead and let Nayana share Impact's story.
One of the reasons for Impact, it's quite important that we have really high quality data, whatever we produce. It's because in the last decade or so, the humanitarian community has gone through a bit of you can call it a data revolution, if you will. So everyone is talking about evidence-based decision-making. Everyone's like doing it, but sometimes it's noise, and it's there's so much noise. And like, how do you help kind of make sure what is actually the right information? It doesn't mean that it has to be Impact's information, but just like making sure that whatever is like being used by decision makers is really the most accurate you can have, given all the other challenges in crisis contexts. And sometimes the answers, we don't have all the solutions. Like the problems we have are quite nuanced, but then what do we need to fix to make sure we're still doing everything as correctly as possible? So I think as we started reflecting on that transition and really looking at, okay, now let's let's do lessons learned of what we've been doing. Let's start questioning ourselves a bit in terms of the methods we apply. That's when we started engaging with SWB. Like a couple of weeks recently, we were having discussions with one of the partner organizations where, they were really suggesting another way to do that and this way. And like, it was really useful for me to have the review report from SWB, like really being able to point, like, no, why this is the way we need to do it. And it all just comes down to the fact that, yeah, like learning and improvement and questioning yourselves in the humanitarian sector is not easy, because everything is like, it's new crisis. Time is like really like the essence to really have, even like with tech innovations, anything you think about, right? And it's not just about like improving for the sake of it. It's really knowing, okay, we do something, we need to improve it. What do we need to improve? And how do we, and that takes time, that takes reflection. And even after having so many, like this full review done with SWB, like having so many recommendations, it still takes us time to like digest and think, what does that mean in practice? And we're still like 6 months in, like, taking recommendation piece by piece to see. So, I mean, it's a time consuming job. It requires knowledge and expertise that you might not have in-house. And it just is helpful to have these kind of partnerships to improve. Continue improving, I guess. And for impact, we're a learning organization, so we would love to like internally always questioning ourselves and kind of keep growing with that. So for us, it's valuable.
So looks like Zara did say yeah at one point during that video. One thing to note, this is a good point to bring up, that what we've done is we've conducted these interviews and then we've edited them down significantly. And over the coming days and weeks, what you'll see is we're going to post longer form interviews to our YouTube page and to our website. So stay tuned if you would like to see more, about that. And so let's move into our last project that I want to get to today. This is going to be based in Nigeria. We're doing a project, or several projects rather, with the University of Lagos. The University of Lagos's vision is to be a top-class institution for the pursuit of excellence in knowledge, character, and service to humanity. And so here you're going to see Rose Ray, who was our project and client manager at SWB for this project. And you're also going to hear from Professor Adamu from the University of Lagos, who will talk about our interactions together, and SWB running multiple data science boot camps for the university. And so with that, Rose and Professor
invited Statistics Without Borders to help organize a 2-week data science boot camp at the University of Lagos. Originally, the idea was to help train the staff, and then Professor Adamu had the good idea to extend the boot camp and then invite additional participants from government and industry and Lagos. And so what the project was, from my point of view, was to first decide what topics we could cover in the boot camp. We chose the same topics that had been decided to be subjects in the data science curriculum at the University of Lagos. And then I put together a team of Statistics Without Borders volunteers to help me find speakers.
Yeah, thank you very much. We had this program, as she did say, last year, August 2023. And then we considered several of these outlines. And then during the program, we had participants. As you can see, these are the participants. Well, some of them, because as at this time, some had not arrived, who were more than this. So we had about close to 60 participants during the program. This was a photo we took at the opening ceremony. We had people from several disciplines in the country. The Central Bank of Nigeria sent about 10 of them to represent them. We had also a state, because we are in Lagos State and they also sent about 13 of their people to attend the program. And we had people from other walks of lives and other places who joined during the boot camp. The students were formed into groups of about 5, and they were given projects to implement based on what they were taught. And they were asked to present their work during the program. And most of them did excellently well in their presentation. Though we observed there were some challenges which we are correcting in this new one. We're having another one this year in August 19th to 30th. And already we have some people who have registered already, and hopefully all things working well, it is going to be a successful one, because all hands are on deck to make sure it succeeds.
So with this project, as Professor Adamu said, they're running a second boot camp, and it's very soon. In fact, in about a week's time. So we're going to take what we did in 2023, and we're really turning this into a partnership where we're working with this same client again and again. And we did multiple projects, or have done multiple projects, with Urban Development Corporation. We've done multiple projects with impact initiatives. And so when we work with these clients, a big part of what we're hoping to do is not just do a project and say, see you later, but rather develop this longer, more significant relationship, because we think that everyone has ultimately benefited from that. So one of the other things that this leads us to is, let me escape here. So again, we've worked with in 2023, we worked on 51 projects for 42 clients in 19 different countries. And this is all due to 209 project volunteers. So you can take the projects that you heard about here. We had 5 different clients come and share their stories today with our volunteers, but there's so much more good that we're going to be able to do as an organization in the years to come. And there's so much more good that we have done that we just didn't have time for you to hear about today. And so it's, I think, a helpful point to sit back and reflect and realize, for those of you who are volunteers here at SWB, or for those of you who are clients, or for those of you who are members of the ASA, you are playing a role in this world of good that we are creating together. So thank you for that. You also saw a bit about the diversity of the projects, whether it's computer vision, whether it's us leading a training and developing curriculum for an organization, whether it's monitoring and evaluation, doing some analysis beyond. There's all sorts of things that we work on together, and that really just scratches the surface in terms of what we've done. So with that, we've talked, you've heard about the 5 different, or heard from the 5 different clients that you're going to hear about today. There's a couple of things that we're going to run through toward the end. And I know we've got about 10 minutes left. So there are about 3 things that I'm going to hit pretty quickly in terms of other things to be excited about and things to look forward to moving forward. So the first is, there's this award that's that the American Statistical Association awards every year, provided that there's somebody who is deserving enough to receive the award. And it's the Carl E. Peace Award for Outstanding Statistical Contributions for the Betterment of Society. That's a long one. And this award recognizes statisticians who have made substantial contributions to the statistical profession and to society in general. And it is my great honor to share that, as some of you may already know, Statistics Without Borders volunteer Kathy Furlong was named the recipient of the 2024 Carl E. Peace Award. And I have to say that this was a hard-earned award. Kathy has been involved with Statistics Without Borders for a long time. She has been the chair of our organization and has made my job a lot easier by her being chair. There's a lot of time and effort and energy that she has put into SWB. And on the next slide, I'm actually going to show it's going to be a wall of text that's going to hit you, but I did want to just share the citation for Kathy winning the award and why she earned it. And I want to make sure that I use that word earned, because she really did earn this. For her exceptional volunteerism, service, and leadership in activities to improve the human condition, and for her dedicated efforts to advance the mission of Statistics Without Borders, which has empowered health, education, and human rights organizations around the world through the use of statistics. So I'm really, really pleased to be able to share that Kathy earned this award. It's in my opinion, long overdue because of all of the time and the energy and everything she did to build this organization into what it is. We would not be doing 50 projects a year and working in 19 different countries in a year if it weren't for Kathy and all of her time and her energy and her effort. So congratulations to Kathy Furlong for this. With that, this is a good point in terms of talking about Kathy helping to advance the vision. Some of you may have been around for this. We've spent the last 18 months doing a lot of strategic planning work here at Statistics Without Borders to chart a course for our future at SWB. Again, the world is at an inflection point, and Statistics Without Borders is also at an inflection point. And so what we did over 18 months was we had leadership offsite and a lot of leadership conversations. We held open house sessions to talk about our new mission and vision and principles with many of you as volunteers, and tried soliciting feedback asynchronously and holding office hours and all sorts of things to really get as much as we could to help understand, hey, we are 15 years old as an organization, and thinking about the post-COVID or largely post-COVID world that we're in and facing all of the challenges that we're facing, what is the right direction for SWB to move in? So the Executive Committee of Statistics Without Borders unanimously approved our new mission and vision. You all, as the volunteers of SWB in the most recent election, ratified our new charter, which includes our new mission and vision, with a vote of 85% in favor. So overwhelming support for our new mission and vision. And at this point, the American Statistical Association, the last step is for that board of directors to review it and hopefully approve it. But what I want to do is show you our mission and our vision to remind you of it. And hopefully, even though we haven't talked about it yet, you're going to see the alignment between our mission and our vision and all of the things that we've talked about throughout this annual meeting. So the soon-to-be new mission, upon ratification from the ASA, our new mission is that Statistics Without Borders advances humanity by partnering with socially conscious communities to enhance their capacity for data-driven decision-making via pro bono advising, educating, and building. So you saw projects like with IC, where we were building computer vision models, or the University of Lagos, where we're educating individuals, students and professors and government officials in Nigeria. And so we do advising and we do educating and we do building. And our goal is to partner with these socially conscious communities around the world and enhance their capacity for data-driven decision-making. And our vision, what is the future that we at Statistics Without Borders envision? What is the ideal world? Statistics Without Borders, we envision a world in which communities everywhere are empowered with statistical and related expertise to make data-driven decisions that advance humanity. We want people to have the statistical and related expertise in hand, and we see that gap that exists in the world, that not all communities do have that access. So we want to help close that gap, and we want to help partner with these communities to provide them with that expertise. And again, even though this is a technically new mission and vision, hopefully you can see that a lot of the work that we've done recently really still aligns with that. So next, what I want to do is I want to talk about volunteer recognition. We recently rolled out a volunteer survey, and many of you responded. Thank you to those of you who took the time to respond to that survey. One of the things that we learned from that is we want to make sure that we put a stronger emphasis on recognizing volunteers and their efforts. And this is multifaceted. There's a lot of ways that, that this can manifest. So in the near future, you can expect us to roll out a systemic volunteer recognition program. One of the aspects of that is going to be certificates for volunteers who meaningfully contribute at SWB. So if you work on a project or if you contribute in a non-project way, we recognize that many folks around the world, especially those maybe earlier in their careers, want to be able to have some kind of certificate or some kind of marker that they can include on a resume or that they can put out there publicly so that people recognize the volunteer work that they've done, and in many cases, the technical work that they've done. So that's something that you're going to see here in the coming future or in the near future. We're also going to provide guidance on writing letters of recommendation for folks. So if you are working on a project, and let's say you are a project execution volunteer, you may want to ask your project and client manager, hey, would you consider writing me a letter of recommendation? We're all volunteers at this organization. And so what we want to do is make it easy as possible for every person to be able to do this. And so for people who are perhaps in that more managerial capacity, we want to make it easy for you to recognize your own volunteers and provide this support, because many folks have shared through that volunteer survey that having professional development, or that many of you are volunteering because of professional development. And so we want to support you where we can. There are other things on that front, but want to make sure that we identify that here and provide that guidance where possible. And then the last thing on this slide is the Gary Shapiro Award for Volunteerism. So Gary Shapiro, I've mentioned him earlier, is one of our co-founders here at Statistics Without Borders. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to be able to recognize volunteers here at SWB. And what you'll receive more details, those of you who are volunteers and on our mailing list, in the near future. But what we want to do is we want to honor our co-founder, Gary Shapiro, by having an award in his name. Gary was, in addition to co-founding SWB, he previously received, or rather earned, the Carl E. Peace Award. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to help that legacy continue to go and continue to grow. And so one way that we can do that is to help recognize volunteers for what they do here at SWB. So more details to come on that later. We don't have time this evening or this morning or afternoon, wherever you are, but you can expect to receive more about that soon. And then to wrap up here, I mentioned that we had elections recently. This is our this is your executive committee here at Statistics Without Borders for the next 2 years. So you elected me as your chair again, and Varun Garg as your vice chair. So Varun, as of this annual meeting, officially takes office. So we will continue. So I'll continue in my capacity. Varun will be joining our executive committee. Jean Opsimer will still be our past chair. Fatima Zarin will continue to be our engagement director, and Gitanjali Shukla will continue to be our operations director. So I'm excited to continue working with them in the near future. Steve Pearson is an ex officio officer working for the American Statistical Association, who has a non-voting seat on our board, as does co-founder Gary Shapiro, who provides a lot of support and wisdom for us as an organization, as somebody who has seen the full 15 years here at SWB. And with that, that brings me to some of the sadder news that I want to be able to share. So this means that Dr. Shloka Iyengar will be stepping away from our executive committee as her term is up and as we transition into new roles. Shloka has been on our executive committee since 2021. She has been our secretary. She has been our director of marketing and communications. She's been a volunteer on our Marcom team, our marketing and communications team. She has been a true champion for global inclusion and has helped to move us forward as an organization, make sure that we are being inclusive, making sure that we are being supportive. She has helped to pioneer a partnership with the Committee on International Relations and Statistics. When she was the director of Marcom, she oversaw significant growth and a lot of new initiatives there. So I'm very grateful to Shloka for her service. She'll continue volunteering with SWB, even though she is shifting off of the executive committee at this point. And the other person that I want to thank and say it's not truly a goodbye, but want to thank is Dr. Jay Brodsky. Dr. Jay Brodsky is currently our vice chair here at SWB. She has been vice chair, she has been secretary, she's been the director of operations at SWB. She has been a statistical consultant providing statistical genetics expertise on genetics-related projects. As far back as I can tell, Jay has served on our executive committee since 2014. It is entirely possible that she has been on our EC for even longer than that. Jay has really been involved with all of our aspects here at SWB. There's barely any decision that has been made here or any action that's been taken at SWB where Jay has not been involved with it. She has also really led our charge around improving the volunteer experience. The volunteer recognition program that I mentioned a couple of slides ago is just one piece of a lot of the work that Jay has been doing behind the scenes to really make our organization grow, and not just better for our clients, but better for our volunteers who tirelessly give and generously give their time, their effort, and their energy. So similarly, I imagine that this is not officially goodbye. I know that Jay will be around and continue to contribute, but I did want to take the opportunity while we had this broader group to be able to thank Jay for all of her work, because SWB would not be the organization that it is without her. And so with all of that, our annual meeting, the theme is meeting the moment, building a better world together. Shloka and Jay have helped us to build a better world. Kathy has, Gary has, we will continue to do so. All of you on this call have played some role in that. And so I'm very grateful to each of you for whatever that role is that you've been playing with us as an organization. And with that, thank you all very much for your time and your energy. Feel free to head to our website. I've got my email up here on screen if you'd like to send me an email. We also recently have an Instagram account. So if you want to check out our Instagram, feel free to go there. We will be publishing a recording of this on our YouTube page. And for those of you who have stuck around, I know we're 1 minute over. I would love for you to complete this brief anonymous survey. It's 3 questions and only one of them is mandatory, but would love for you to take a minute to share how we can continue improving on this and how we can do even better next year. So with that, I thank you all so much for your time and your energy. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is. And I hope to talk with you soon.